Councillor Fletcher.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I used the opportunity while I was asking questions of Gail that to speak, but I put forward a proposition and I thought that you were going to adopt it, and that was that the Chief Operating Officer report back at the next meeting of this committee on the Auckland going green and the possibility of AGC impact statement. We do want to move beyond just lip service. We do want to see this entrenched into all of our policies, and I think that this would be the most useful tool for achieving that. But I recognise that Mr. Kimpton needs time for this to be looked at carefully to see whether or not it's possible to implement. So I would welcome a B up there, or I'm happy to move an amendment.
Well, Mr. Kimpton can speak to it, but I just want to say that I think Councillor Penrose talked about the cost of council, and I don't know if asking for a report next month would be in interest, but Mr. Kimpton, what do you think?
Look, we've got a quality policy advisory team, and so my recommendation was that we refer how we take or do an impact analysis across environmental issues in Auckland Growing Greener to that group and ask them to come back to us. I suggest rather than a report, it's quite simple for us to do that by way of memo, and then you may wish to comment on that at the next committee meeting. And I'm just checking with Claire, who's part of that, but it's quite feasible that we could do that for the next strategy and policy meeting.
Well, could we have some reference so that I can actually see in the minutes that we will see that follow-up there?
Yes.
Well, the mover and the seconder,
I'm really happy. I'm sure the seconder is. I suggest if we look at some of the Legacy Council's reports who used to report on the quadruple bottom line, you'll see that environmental reporting was done by old TLAs. And I think if we just put a B in there that says that we notify elected members on the best way to address the issue of environmental reporting or reporting on growing green, or however you want to put it, whatever works for you, Dean.
Or advise.
Mr. Chairman, the issue I've got here is that this isn't about, as we are going to do later today, the state of the environment and a report back. This is a much more proactive stance whereby whenever we are considering policy, we say, well, what is the impact of that? Where will the improvements come? And that it's a different way, rather reporting back, it's actually at the first stage saying, what will the impact of this be? So it's a slightly different thing to perhaps what has been experienced in the past.
I wouldn't have expected you to have agreed with me for 1 second, Councillor Fletcher, but we're saying the same thing.
okay. Mr. Wilcox.
Yeah. Am I right? Is this a rehash of our eco-city principles at Waitakere?
God help us, let's not raise
Let's not get too extreme.
Through the chair, I wouldn't say it was a rehash. No, it's gone through a significant looking at all the options. So no, I wouldn't say it's a rehash.
Okay.
Thank you. We're just discussing. Well, they're just discussing some words. Councillor Cashman.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, and I understand what the other councillors are saying, but the main point of this report is about how we deliver, and I'd like to commend the team for the work they've done already in improving the collaborative and inclusive nature of their deliverability, and that's a big place and movement forward in taking the people out there, whether they're developers or users of the environment, with them and with us on our pathway forward. So yeah, well done to all the team involved in this. It's good stuff. Thank you. Thank you.
So what would be?
Is that it?
So, if I can, through the chair, what I've quickly drafted out here would effectively form B, and that is staff to advise on how best to incorporate environmental impact assessment into future policy or strategy reports.
Great, thank you.
So that, and we would undertake to do that by way of memo through to you as a committee, so you understand what our proposal is, and invite comment on it so that we arrive at the next meeting, and then we can continue to implement. All I'm suggesting is I think we can do that by way of memo in the context of how we manage committee reports now in our quality advice fashion. And then, subject to any feedback, we would look to implement that.
Right.
That's a message.
Yeah, put the motion.
A memo.
Yeah, was that Nemo, the fish?
The memo.
Should be in the
Come back
report
here.
I was just
then.
wondering.
Look,
We've been sitting around.
the recommendation is we can provide this, we can provide advice to you in the form of a memo, or we can provide it to you in the form of
Memo's
a
fine. Memo's
M-E-M-O.
Nemo. I thought it
Or
was
we-
Nemo. I thought,
$20,000
what's the
an
fish got to
hour,
do with
Nemo?
it?
Or we can provide it to you in a form of a report. And all my recommendation is that it could be done in the form of a MEMO.
Mr. Chairman, I think that I am the first one to want to see us actually prioritising our time on this council. But you cannot set the environment aside. I think it should be a report back to this committee on how we do this and how it's
Move
incorporated.
an amendment. if you
So
wish to do
I'm
that.
happy to move a B then.
Well,
I'll
it's been
second
moved
that.
by councillor Coles, so.
I'll second.
What's the, give
Memo.
us the word.
Memo.
Well, it's exactly the same, but it's staff to advise on best ways to incorporate environmental impact assessment into future policy or strategy reports, and that the difference is that rather than sending us a memo, it will come back to this committee.
No, order. The memo is what we do now. Each of the committees have memorandums on them, on there as by way of report, or reports in the form of a memorandum, which actually outlines issues that have been raised so that there's a record of that on the agenda. But they aren't issues that are going to be debated, or there's no resolutions going to come out of them.
Excuse me, Mr.
So
Chairman.
that's what we're going to do.
It's actually already in the plan.
So that's the way forward. So look, we'll take a vote on it. If the committee
65.
doesn't agree to
No,
it, well, we'll
Mr. Chairman,
change it. Okay, no, come on, I'm going to take the vote.
Mr. Chairman,
No.
I am saying that I'm happy, as long as I can be assured that this is going to take place, I'm happy to withdraw that, because I think one issue that we should be able to find consensus on is the environment.
Okay, that's fine. Fine, Mr.
You have our commitment that we'll do this piece of work and get that memo
Thank you.
to you.
Okay, with that, I'm going to put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Hear that carried. Before we go to break for lunch, can we just do item 9, approval of Auckland Council Stormwater Code of Practice. You've all got the material.
I'll move.
You moved by councillor
I have a question.
Webster, seconded by councillor Filipina. Councillor Darby?
I have some questions.
Okay.
So, Councillor Wood, through the chair, I just want to explain the proposed change of resolutions, just so people are clear on the rationale for that.
Yeah, so the officer's off, it's the chief engineer.
So, Councillor Sarah Sinclair, who you've met before, Chief Engineer, will present. We have some